Hi, everybody. Welcome into the Irish NFL show. It's Friday night. We're presented by our friends over at Pundit Arena, joined with the usual guys. But you can see we've got a really special guest tonight, probably one of the greatest ever coaches. Doesn't matter if it's a coach or a defensive coach in the NFL for many a year. Wade Phillips. Wade, it's a pleasure to have you on, man. How's it going?
Hey, it's going good. I'm excited to be on with you guys. Yeah, I love Ireland. I'd like to
Son
go
of
there,
Bum.
but I know the pictures and the people are always great. So
I was going to ask you, because we always ask our guests to come on, especially ones from the States. Obviously, son of bum, have you any affiliation to Ireland? Any family from Ireland or anything?
I think I'm Phillips, so I have a little bit of Irish blood somewhere. My mother was a Wilson, so UK and Ireland, I think. Yeah.
Wade, we're definitely going to talk about you and your stellar career in a little while. But your dad was the legendary Bum Phillips. Could you maybe talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you learned from your dad?
Well, all the football stuff, growing up a coach's kid, and certainly he was a famous coach, and uh, he said as long as they just call him Bum and not a Bum, he was all right with it. So, but he influenced everything. Obviously, I grew up, idolizing him and being around football, and I learned the 3-4 defense from him. So, yeah, my whole football career is really, and my life is certainly influenced by my dad. So. And I have a book out, The Son of Bum, if anybody wants to read it. So that kind of tells you what my dad and I, how we got along and how I learned from him.
Wade, having watched the league for 20 odd years now, you always come across as a character with a great sense of humour and never tend to take too much too seriously. Was that something that you also got from your father?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everybody's influenced by their dad, I'm sure, but I was in that area. I've got a little bit of a dry sense of humor, and I learned to enjoy life, enjoy what I'm doing, enjoy coaching. I wouldn't have been in it if I didn't love it, and that's what he taught me. Is, hey, if you want to do anything else, if you love to do anything else, you should be doing it. If you love football, then get in it.
Wade, obviously, with your dad and then obviously on your own as a head coach and D coordinator, you've been around the league for so long, you've coached so many great players. But I remember hearing, back in the earlier days when you're with the Houston Oilers, coaching Elvin Bethea, Hall of Fame DT there. There's a couple of funny stories, but there's one in particular that stands out. I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
Yeah, I was a young coach, 27 years old, and I think Elvin Bethea, who, like you said, is in the Hall of Fame, he had 4 or 5 different coaches before I got there, and he and I were about the same age. Or, he might have been a little older than I was. So I was coming in there new out of college and full of piss and vinegar, and so I was coaching him, one day. And Elvin was a great player, so he hadn't been corrected a whole lot, And so, we had a drill, and I said, Elvin, I want you to do certain things and step this way when I say set hut. Well, he didn't step the 45-degree angle that I wanted him to step at. And so I said, Elvin, you need to do this again. And again, we did it a couple of times, And after a while, my dad, who coached on a tower way up high, he was up on a tower up there, and Elvin turned around and he hollered to my dad. He said, "Hey, Bum, Wade's coaching his ass off," and which meant, I was really correcting him a whole lot, which he hadn't had a lot of his career. It probably didn't need to be, but it was a fun moment, and that just shows you how much fun we had during practice and so forth, and how loose it was, and that a player could holler up to the head coach and say, "Hey, this guy's coaching like heck." So, yeah, that was a fun time. Elvin was a great player, though. It was hard to correct him. He didn't make many mistakes.
And even going on what you mentioned a second ago, Wade, about your book, Son of Bum, about your dad and obviously career and stuff. I read the book when it came out, and I have to say, if you are an NFL fan or even getting into the game over here in Ireland, UK, and Europe, I definitely recommend checking it out. And you can get it on Amazon here and some local booksellers. So there's a link in the description below. There are some great lines from your dad about Earl Campbell. Could you maybe share the story about running the mile in the
Oh yeah,
preseason?
yeah, that's my favorite story about my dad and Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell. I mean, to show you how good he was, when he was a rookie, he was rookie of the year, but he was also NFL player of the year as a rookie. In his second year, he was NFL player of the year. In his third year, he was NFL player of the year. So, I mean, and obviously he's in the Hall of Fame. Uh, I can tell you a lot of stories about the great things he did, and you may know all about him. If you don't know about him, you should look on YouTube and see what kind of runner he was, because nobody runs like that these days. I mean, there's some really great backs, but you can see why he's in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, in the preseason, when the players came in, because they'd been off the whole off season, we tested them to see if they were in shape or not, basically. And so this one year, Earl came in and all the players came in, and normally we tested them by running 40 meters, back and forth or something like that to see what kind of shape they're in. Well, this year the guys decided that the players were going to run a mile to see what kind of shape they're in. Well, Earl wasn't a miler. He had 40-inch thighs, so he wasn't quite the miler type. And so he makes about a half a mile, and he steps off the track and doesn't make it. And the media is just like they are today. They all ran up to my dad and they said, Bum, what are you going to do? Earl didn't make the mile. And he thought a minute and he said, well, hell, if it's third and a mile, we won't give him the ball. But he said, we'll give it to him the rest of the time, which we did. So, yeah, Earl was, I can tell you a lot of fantastic, the 4-minute offense was Earl Campbell when we were there, because at the end of the game, if we had to keep the ball to win the game, we just gave it to Earl every play, and he ran out the clock. So you couldn't stop him most of the time, but especially at the end of the game. So he was a fun guy to be around. I just talked to Earl the other day. They named the stadium at the University of Texas for him, and what a great guy and a great player.
Wade, you have coached, I suppose, some absolute legends of the game. You've given us a couple of the names there, but obviously the others that people wouldn't, the names like Reggie White, JJ Watt, Aaron Donald, DeMarcus Ware, Vaughn, Bruce Smith, so many, and so many others. I mean, the list could go on and on. Any favorite moments from working, as a coach?
Oh yeah, I mean, all those guys you mentioned were hard workers. They were obviously great talents, but they worked at what they did. And Reggie White was a lot of fun. I mean, Reggie White was obviously a big guy, about 6'5", 305, could really run fast, and he was kind of a clown though. He liked to mess around. He would, when they throw Gatorade on the coaches after the game. Well, he used to do it in training camp. He'd throw a big bucket of ice water on the coaches during training camp when it was real hot outside, and he could imitate everybody. At that time, he could imitate Muhammad Ali and people like that, and so he would put on a show for the team and imitate people. He imitated me. I don't know how you could do that, but he imitated me. And Coach Buddy Ryan, he would imitate him. And one of our coaches smoked a pipe, and so he would imitate him. And so we had we'd have a show or something at night, after practice, and Reggie would come on and do his impersonations, and everybody laugh and have a lot of fun. But I coached him in 1987, and he set the record for sacks in the league at that time. Which was 21, and Michael Strand broke it with 22. But what people don't remember is in '87, when he had 21 sacks, we played 12 games. It was a strike season, so we didn't play the first 4 games. So we played a 12 instead of 16 game schedule, and he had 21 sacks in 12 games. And I don't think anybody's going to ever come close to that. I've had Aaron Donald had 20 and a half sacks. Demarcus Ware had 20 sacks. Von Miller obviously was the MVP. Bruce Smith, all-time sack leader. All those guys were great players, but nobody had a season like he had that year.
And just on Reggie White, you moved him from defensive tackle to outside linebacker. What was the thought process at the time behind that?
In English, one more time.
He was originally a defensive tackle, and then he moved to outside linebacker.
No, he played defensive end. Yeah, Reggie went from, he was playing defensive tackle when we had him, and they could double team him real easy by putting the center on him all the time and the guard. So we moved him out to defensive end, and that way the tackle was one-on-one with him all the time, and he could beat anybody one-on-one. He probably could have beat people two-on-one, but we'd rather put him outside because he was a big guy. Now we had Aaron Donald. I had Aaron Donald, and he's really an inside player. He's not very tall. Reggie was 6'5", so we could move him outside. Aaron just beats the double teams anyway, So, but I think Reggie could have, all those great ones. They could beat more than one person.
Well, Wade, Brian is a Giants fan, so I'm almost tempted to ask you, would it be Reggie or LT for you? But I think I know what your answer will be.
Well, Reggie had the greatest year ever. I mean, I as far as sacks are concerned. And, I coached a guy named Robert Brazil, who was with the Oilers, who just went in the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. That played a similar time as LT. LT was a great player. But Robert was right up there with him. I mean, he was 6'5", 245, and he could run better than 4.6, 40-yard dash. So he was a tremendous athlete. And I was glad to see him get in the NFL Hall of Fame because he deserved it.
And Wade, you're talking about your players there, and your passion for them, your respect for obviously their skills is quite evident, but it's quite clear from outside looking in, you've got a strong relationship with a number of players. You see the relationship you had with so-called difficult players like Aqib Talib and the like, and all the players you've coached under the years, whether as a head coach or a defensive coordinator, they've all seemed to really respect you, respond to your coaching style, respond to you personally. How would you describe how you've evolved, I suppose, that leadership style or that way of building those relationships and those performances from them?
Well, I got a lot of donkey's years, so I've been around a long time. A lot of people think I know what I'm doing because of my age, so that helps me a lot going in. But just being yourself. I started at the bottom and I'm here right now. So I enjoy players, and not just the great ones, but a lot of good players or even average players. But they're hard workers. Football gives you that. They work hard to gain what they do. They work hard to make a living, and I appreciate that from them. And I try to. I don't know about lead them, but try to direct and make it reasonable that they do the right things the right way. And I think that helps our relationship. And as far as I'm concerned, I work with them. They don't work for me. They work with me. And I think that's the key, to be successful and be, for the players. It's not that they like you. It's they feel like you can help them be a better player, I hope. And that's what I try to do. And so you have to work with someone to do that. Everybody looks at a coach as a holler guy that is always jumping on players, and really that's not what you're doing. You're a teacher. You have to teach players, even with the great talents. You have to try to teach them to do a little bit better, not only motivation wise, but skill-wise, to utilize their skills. And different guys have different skill sets that you have to develop. And it's like taking a kid in school and developing him as a teacher. You do the same thing with a football player. They're not at the top of their class, and they haven't finished their schooling, so to speak. So you have to feel like that you're helping them be a better player. And I always feel like they know if you can help them or not. And so I coach defensive backs or defensive linemen, linebackers, a lot of great ones, and they were naturally good, but hopefully we helped them be better.
You've actually touched on my next question. You're obviously talking there about the desire to get better, and that is such an important trait in the player. And you've obviously talked about that. But for you, is that something that you learned from your dad, do you think?
Yeah, I mean that, but being around those players that we mentioned, those great ones, they have that inner want to, they want to be better. They want to be better than everybody else. I mean, they're not egotistical. I don't mean that, but they have this desire to be great, and you can help them in some ways, but they've got to have heart. They've got to have heart to be better. I don't know how you give it to them. I wish I did. But I've been around the ones that do have it, and hopefully they've gotten better by me coaching them some. But they got better because they want to. They want to be the best. Aaron Donald wants to be the best. J.J. Watt. I mean, you can't find guys that work harder than those. And I'm talking about during the season, during the off season, to do the things they need to do to get stronger, to get quicker, to get faster. Anything they can do, they do it. And so I'm not sure I have a lot of influence in that way to make them that much better, but they certainly are those kind of people. Those great ones we named are all like that. They're all similar. They're different people, obviously, but they want to be successful. They want to be the best at what they do, and they turn out being that way. I wish I could get everybody to want to do that.
Well, you yourself clearly have that desire to continue to learn and to grow and develop, which is why you've been so successful and as a defensive coordinator. But you've had stints as a head coach, and you were head coach at the Cowboys. And I suppose, can you talk to us a little bit about that and about working with a larger than life character in Jerry Jones?
Yeah, well, anytime they talk to me about Cowboys, I know Jerry Jones is coming up because he is but he's the general manager. He's not only the owner; he's the general manager of the team. So that's a lot different than any other owner. And so he's in the day-to-day operations. He's in all the draft meetings and who we draft, who we're playing, those kind of things. He's involved in all that. So he has to be out front as far as that's concerned. Fun guy to be around. He'll have a pint with you. So he's a fun guy. He's a very outgoing. And he is a great family man. He and his family all work. Charlotte works for him. Jerry Jr. works for him. Stephen works for him. They all work together. It's a family situation. Even the mom helped. Jean helped decorate the stadium. Different things like that. So they're really family involved. And when you're involved with them, your family's involved. My family, my son, worked with us there. My daughter, when she came, we were all together with the Jones family. So that was the great thing about working there. And he wants to win the Super Bowl every year, and I'd like to see him do it sometime. They did it, long in the '90s, but he's relentless in wanting to do the best he can, and have the best team he can. So that's the kind of owner you want.
Wade, you've had the opportunity to coach across numerous teams in the league. As a Giants fan, I just wondered, did you ever have the opportunity potentially to go to the Giants at any stage?
Yeah, I saw the Giants were going to come up. That's your team, huh, Brian? That's your team. That's the one
Yeah.
you. Okay, that's all right. They almost made it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I did almost go with the Giants. Jim Fossil was the head coach. When Jim Fossil was the head coach, you remember when he's the head coach?
Yeah.
Well, Jim Fossil was my offensive coordinator in Denver. So when he got the job, he asked me to come with him and be the defensive coordinator with the Giants under Jim Fossil. But I also had Dan Reeves asking me to be the defensive coordinator at Atlanta. And I ended up going to Atlanta instead of the Giants. I don't know if it's a good move or bad move, but actually the first year we went to Atlanta, we beat Green Bay in the playoffs. The first time the Green Bay Packers had ever lost a home game in the playoffs. So we had a pretty good year there with Atlanta. So at least the first year was pretty good for us.
When the Ravens beat the Giants in the Super Bowl in 2000, you might have done a better job managing the defense in that game.
Yeah, they had a great team that year. The Giants also beat us. I guess we'll talk about it later, or maybe, I don't know. But anyway, when I was with the Cowboys, we beat them twice during the regular season, and they beat us in the playoffs and then won the Super Bowl in 2007. So
that was.
I know you remember that.
Oh, I do. Yeah, Brandon Jacobs touchdown, winning touchdown.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the questions around Jerry Jones putting the tickets on the players' locker before the game for the championship game.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or just the story. I never saw that, but we beat them twice during the season. So and we were 13-3. So we thought we might beat them, but they played a great game and they obviously had a great team. They ended up winning the Super Bowl. So
yeah. Wade, I'm a Patriots fan, so I can attest the Giants got lucky a few times that playoffs, I'd say. But on that note, you as a defensive coordinator have coached some amazing units as well, and you've had some games where, arguably the game plan, the scheme you applied, belongs, like, I know Belichick's in '86 with the Giants almost in the Hall of Fame. There's a couple of games that stand out for me. I'm just going to flag. I mean, you had the 2015 AFC Championship game where the Patriots went into the Broncos at Mile High, and I think your team hit your defensive team hit Brady 21, 22 times in that game. You just
24,
had
24.
You remember? I thought you might. And
Yeah,
then you've had games where you and the defense have had an amazing game, and the Super Bowl, obviously in 2018, where the Rams had the Patriots locked down for 3-4 quarters until they went to a kind of an unusual formation and didn't substitute and got a little bit of momentum on one key drive. Now, in that game, that isn't on your unit. I mean, the offense somewhat let the team down, you would say, almost in that game. Now, I don't know, sometimes hear players giving out about, if only the offense would pick up or only the defense pick up. As a coordinator, are you ever there silently seething and, wanting to kick the offense or wanting to suggest things? Or is it just like, hey, it's all about the team, it's all about the one unit, and, win and lose, we all win and lose together?
Yeah, it's all about the team. I've been on teams or been around teams that, if you start thinking it's somebody else's fault, then you're not going to play as well. You're not going to do as well. And I've always preached to my defensive teams that we're playing the other team's defense. We're not playing the other team's offense. We're playing the other team's defense. As long as we hold hold the team we're playing to less than what they hold our team to, we win. It's not, well, okay, we held them to 13 points. Well, that was great, but they beat us 13-3. So that, we had to hold them to 0, and then we didn't do it. So I've always, I don't like blaming it on somebody else or somebody to have an out and say, hey, the other side of the ball isn't doing their job. No, we got to do our job to the best of our ability. And that 2015 team that won the Super Bowl with the Broncos now, we didn't have the greatest offense. I mean, we had Peyton Manning, but we were we were like 16th or 18th in the league in offense, but we played good enough to win. They didn't, I started to say they didn't turn the ball over, but we did turn the ball over more than anybody in the league too. But our defense wasn't looking to the offense and saying, oh, heck, they messed up, or they didn't do good. We went out and said, hey, we're going to do our job and we're going to do it to the best. And therefore, in the Super Bowl, we scored a touchdown on defense. Von Miller knocked the ball out and we recovered it for a touchdown. And we Von caused the fumble on the 5-yard line that we scored on. And we held them to 10 points. So that was enough to win. And that's the way you have to think, hey, we're going to play good enough to win. And we're not going to worry about the other side of the ball or special teams. We're going to do our job and do the best we can do and make that enough to win. And I think you start there, and that way you don't blame it on somebody else. When something goes wrong or it isn't good enough, the offense doesn't make enough points or enough first downs or whatever. Hey, we just got to stop them. We got to stop the other team.
You're taking me back, Wade, as a Broncos fan, to something that feels like yesterday watching that game. Iron sharpens iron, that game in January as well. Incredible defensive performance. And, we haven't hit those heights since. We really haven't, Wade. I mean, you left and then it just, I don't know, man. Obviously, Wade, it would be interesting to hear your opinion. Maybe, obviously, John Elway now is gone as GM and he's moving up in the team. What was it like working with John Elway in Denver in that stint? And just maybe your thoughts on what really now is, and I don't think it's being talked about this much. It's almost like a reset again for this franchise with Elway leaving. It's the real end of an era.
Well, it is because I was there when I was a defensive coordinator and way back, and John Elway was playing, and we went to a Super Bowl. We lost in the Super Bowl, but it's being around him as a player. What a great player he was, and what a tremendous guy, and then to come back and he's the general manager, and we win the Super Bowl, and he gave us the players we needed certainly. So he's just been the top guy there for so long, and really the face of the franchise. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens now that they've changed general managers, and maybe he stepped away from it. I think he has. So, and they haven't been successful the last 4 or 5 years. So, maybe Denver people they want a winner, and they certainly had one in John Elway. So we'll see what happens there.
I put a tweet out, Wade, today to Broncos fans saying, talking to Wade Phillips tonight, if you could ask Wade Phillips one question as a Broncos fan, what would it be? Got about 50 replies, and about 70% of them, Wade, was, can you please come back? So,
well, I've been there twice, and we went to the Super Bowl both times. So, I do love the Denver fans. They, like I say, it's an atmosphere, and you probably have it there with different teams that you have, whether it's soccer or whatever it is, but different communities. They want to win so bad that it influences the players to do better. I really believe that. So there's certain teams that do better, but I think part of it is they expect them to do well. The whole community expects them to do well, and I think that makes you a better team. I'm sure you have that in different towns that have teams or sports teams that win year after year. It's not just that they have good players; they have people supporting them that really want to win and expect them to win.
Wade, speaking, I suppose, of that desire to win, I'm going to be selfish and ask a somewhat Broncos-related question, but we touched on earlier the relationship you have with players, and one of the special relationships seemed to be with Aqib Talib. Can you talk a little bit about Aqib and what he's like as a player? Because around the league, he seems, people look at Aqib. He did the commentary earlier in the year. There's a lot of respect for Aqib and what he did around the league.
Yeah, he's a great player. I think Aqib will be in the Hall of Fame when his time comes up. He's he had a knack for not only intercepting the ball but scoring touchdowns. I mean, he did it a whole bunch when I was there, and throughout his career. He had a lot of interceptions, but a lot of them he ran back either for a touchdown or almost touchdowns. So he had a real knack that most DBs don't have. He's a great leader. He's certainly a character, but you know, you like guys like that because you want them to be. You don't want everybody to be the same. You know, I mean, you want people to have an identity, and he certainly did and does. And I think it helped our team overall because the guy could be himself but still be a great player, and that's what you need. You need guys that don't necessarily do the same as everybody else, but you know, go out on their own and take a chance and do something to make plays for you. The guys that are timid or aren't you know aren't that mindset just kind of go through the game. What Talib didn't do that. He went through the game trying to intercept it for a touchdown. Played the Chiefs one year in Kansas City and beat them in Kansas City, as a matter of fact. But right before the half, they were going to get the ball backed up. And Talib came to me before he went out on the field, and he said, "Coach, you know they're gonna backed up at the end of the half. They throw quick outs." He said, "Let me go get it." He said, "Call something, I can go get it." I said, "Okay." First play, quick out, intercepted. He didn't score a touchdown. He took it to the 5-yard line. We ended up scoring for the half, and it was a big play in the ball game. So, you know, he was a great player and a great guy, and fun to be around. I mean, why not have fun? Why not enjoy what you're doing, have fun doing it, be successful? I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, you know, you know, I think everybody would kind of like to do that in their own profession, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know, people sometimes they get carried away with people that are outlandish or have their own personality. But I think those kind of guys, like I said, Reggie White had a big personality. Von Miller. I mean, those guys have big personalities, but they still play for the team and play great, and that's what you want.
And Wade, that willingness to trust them. I mean, you can see the players respond to that. Is that something that you learned from your dad?
I think so. I mean, I trust, and some people say I trusted people too much, but I'd rather be that way than not at all. I'm not trusting people, and I do think once you trust them and they know it, they're going to play better. They're going to do better. When they feel like somebody has their back, you know, that's not going to come out and say, "Oh, you know, this guy made all these mistakes and isn't good enough." If you support them enough and trust them, they're going to get better. And so that's what I've always done. Yeah, I think some of my dad rubbed off on me there. I hope that's not only from him but from me, just being myself and you know, that's the way I feel. That's the way I live life. It's about people. You know, life is about people. Football is about people, and you know, I enjoy people, and I like people, and I don't mind showing them that. Now, I will tell them, hey, they got to do better. You know, if they need to do better, and they know that. So, as long as you're honest and you're trustworthy, and you trust them, I think all things work out better.
The next question refers back to your dad as well. You look at Mike Shula and Stephen Belichick in the league today, following in their father's footsteps. Just wondering, when you started off coaching on your dad's defense, did you feel more pressure to kind of to show people that you could be there and do it for your father?
Yeah, you know, like I said, when I went in, I was 27 years old, and I thought I was a hell of a coach, but I hadn't done anything yet in the NFL. So, but I had enough confidence in my dad that he wouldn't put me in a situation that I couldn't handle. He had seen me coach. I obviously knew what kind of person I was, but he had seen me coach, and because he called me up and said, "Hey," he didn't ask me to come. He said, "Wait," because I was coaching at University of Kansas in college, and he called me up and said, "Wade, you're coming with the Oilers. Get your stuff, and y'all move down to Texas." And so that's what I did. He didn't ask me if I wanted to, and but I knew that he had enough confidence in me, and he knew that he wasn't going to put me in a situation that I really couldn't handle. Although I had some tough guys to coach at that time, because like I said, I think 2 or 3 of them were older than I was, and I was trying to teach them, to be better players. So it was a challenge, but those guys that were older than I was, one of them was Elvin Bethea, he's in the Hall of Fame. Another one was Curly Culp, he's in the Hall of Fame. And then Robert Brazil, who's about my age, I coached also, is in the Hall of Fame. So those guys were pretty easy to coach.
And Wade, one more on your dad. When you obviously went on in your career to then become a head coach, obviously originally in the Broncos, a couple of years in the Bills, a couple of years in the Cowboys, did you ever have your dad, almost being like a backseat driver, trying to suggest improvements or try and tell you what you should be doing in there? Or, was that ever occurring? And if so, was it helpful?
No. If you knew him, he wasn't that way at all. I mean, now I talked to him after every game, basically, and whether I was a head coach or not, and he pretty much had the same message for me every time. If we won, he'd say, "Hey, you got a tough game next week. Don't pat yourself on the back too much. He'd say the next team you're going to play in next year, Philadelphia, you got Philadelphia next week, and they're going to be tough. And then if we lost, he'd say, "Hey, you still got that next ball game. You can't let them get down. You got to go to the next game." So that's basically what he said to me. Now we argued a little bit, especially when I was working for him, about techniques and how you should play certain things. I was hard-headed in some ways, in certain ways. He had certain ways to do them. We might disagree on some of that, but but as far as second guessing, no, he never second guessed anything. He was always behind me, just like I'm behind my son. My son Wes coaches for the Rams, so he coaches the offense. So he coaches tight ends for the Rams, and we talk football a lot and have worked together twice. And but I'm just proud of what kind of coach he is. I think he's going to be a head coach here one of these days. So we've had 3 generations of Phillips in the NFL, which the Shulas and the Phillipses are only families that have ever done that.
I was going to say, I saw he coaches the tight ends, and the production of the tight ends in the blocking and the passing game is pretty impressive out there in the Rams.
Yeah, he's really a good coach. I'm his dad, obviously, but I've been around good coaches, and he's definitely one.
Can't wait to see how far he goes, man. It's going to be exciting. Wait, I hope it's okay, man. We got about 5-6 minutes. Is it okay even to round off just one question each before we round it off? Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sweet. Wait, look, man. Obviously, you played. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but you were over in Twickenham in London with the Rams in 2017, and I'm also maybe right. 1994, you went to Barcelona with the Broncos against the Raiders.
There you go. Yeah.
A very interesting season where you picked up this guy, undrafted free agent, Rod Smith. A few people have heard of him now.
Yeah.
What was it like going overseas? I guess it's completely. Was it different going in the 90s to more recently? And what's your thoughts on the whole expansion? Do you think a team over here is realistic, or do you think maybe a different structure is needed?
Yeah, I was impressed certainly that when we played at Twickenham and when we played at Wimbledon. Well, not Wimbledon.
Wembley.
Wembley.
Wembley, yeah, not Wimbledon. I didn't play any tennis, but Wembley, and the fans are awesome. I mean, and Barcelona, we had a good time over there. I really enjoyed that trip. I've lived all over the United States, uh, but going to Europe and going to those places was fun because the fans are real fans. I mean, they had all different jerseys on. They had their whole different fan base, just like they had Giants jerseys and they had different jerseys, but they liked American football. And I could tell that. Um, Even in Japan, we went over there. They weren't quite as boisterous fan wise. I don't think they knew the game quite as much, but they filled the stadium. But those two stadiums were loud, and that's what helps the home team. So I think if you get a team there, you could have a pretty good team because of the fan base. The fans will turn out and sing for you, and enjoy all that too. So I didn't understand all that, but it was fun to be around.
Wade, speaking of boisterous fan bases, you spent a bit of time up in Buffalo, and obviously the Bills Mafia, as they're now known, are renowned around the league. Just what are your thoughts? Obviously, big game this weekend for them. Your thoughts on the Bills this season?
Yeah, they've had a remarkable year. It's been a long time. In fact, I was there when we won a playoff game. So that I was glad to see them do that last week for the fan base. Although the fans aren't able to go to the games, which is a shame because it is a rowdy stadium now, and it's hard to play there, especially late in the year because it's cold and the weather and so forth, and the fans are really loud, so they don't get to have that advantage. But they've got a good football team. They got a really solid defense. We were number one in the NFL when I was there in defense, and they've got a top-notch defense. And then that young quarterback is really a great player. So I'm really impressed with their offense also. So they've got a chance to get to the championship game, although they play on a tough opponent, but they've got a chance to get there. I wish for them they would have a full crowd, and that would help them a little bit more. So we'll see what happens.
Wade, the performance by the Cleveland Browns last week, bearing in mind the COVID situation with Kevin Stefanski and the players not being available, how impressed were you with that performance?
Yeah, I mean, of course, going up 28-0 in the first quarter, that'll help you. Their defense did good too, and in fact, Alex Van Pelt played for me. He was a backup quarterback for the Bills for Buffalo. He's the guy that was calling the plays for the Browns and did a great job. And he's a really good coach. I'm proud of Alex. He was kind of a backup quarterback, but he was real smart, and he learned how to teach people to be better players. And then they also obviously learned to do a good job of calling plays. So I thought he did a really good job of managing the offense while the head coach was gone. And I was obviously glad to see the Browns finally, they just been beat up so much by not being in the playoffs, and finally get back was great for them and their fans. Like I say, it's just a shame that the fans don't get to go to the games,
Wade, coming into this weekend, obviously in the playoffs, there's 8 teams left. You coached 3 of them for a long period of time, or a decent period of time, the Saints, the Rams, the Bills. So, you've a lot of connections in those places. But, how do you see it all panning out? I mean, down to the Super Bowl, who do you think is going to be the class acts that prevail at this stage?
Good question. I don't know who has an answer. I mean, the way I coach when I coach is, I always think we're going to win. So my team's going to win. I'm pulling for the Rams, obviously, because my son coaches there. So, but game to game, it's how you play. I mean, it's like we were talking about with Brian. I mean, we beat we beat the Giants twice during the season, then they beat us in the playoffs. And the playoffs is a new game. You know, it's a new season. Some teams take advantage of that opportunity. Some teams don't. So, and it's really not how you're playing at the time. It's how you play that game, you know, and how you match up against that team. So, you know, I don't know how they pick them. You know, I couldn't tell you which one's going to win it all. You know, I think you just flip a coin and say, hey, this team's going to beat the other one because they're going to play their best, you know, and it's whoever makes the least mistakes in those ball games, really. So, it's sometimes it's players you don't even hear about that turn out to be the game winners, you know, to help them win the game. So there's about 5 or 6 plays during a game that make a difference and can change a close game. And it's those plays, whoever makes those plays can end up winning. But I can't predict. I'm in the coaching business. I'm not in the predicting business.
Fair enough.
Wade, I tell you what, man. Like we started the show asking about Irish heritage and stuff. I mean, you definitely have some Irish in you because I feel like we could talk for the next 4 or 5 hours with a few pints in the pub somewhere. But your insight of the game, your analysis there has been just fantastic. And I know not just us lads, but the people watching this that are fans in Ireland, the UK, and Europe massively appreciate this. Wish you know, obviously your son the very best luck this weekend. If the Rams get to the Super Bowl, you'll have to come back on for a laugh at some point.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had a whale of a good time tonight, though. So.
It's a pleasure, Wade. It's definitely a pleasure. I know, Colin, it's been great. I think it's our 3rd time speaking with Wade, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you, Wade. We really appreciate. Thank you for taking the time to share some absolutely fantastic stories with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Maybe I'll get over there. If I get over there, I'm gonna holler at you guys because I know you got a great country there and you got a lot of great people.
Well, we'll take you to a few pubs, Wade. Don't worry about that. We'll show you.
Enjoy American football.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Wade, thanks very much, mate. All the best. Thank you.